Namaskar. Today we are here to discuss certain do's and don'ts for investors in today's markets. We start with our number of options for investments. For a normal investor, there are two types of investment products. That is financial products and non-financial products from which we can earn income in stock markets. In financial products, we have certain products like fixed income and market linked products. I further divide the fixed income products into 4 to 5 categories. For a normal investor, fixed income products can be categorized as saving bank accounts or post office bank accounts, then bank fixed maturity deposit accounts. Then there is another kind of account or investment that is called PPF, Public Provident Fund accounts. Then we have recurring deposit accounts in which we, on monthly basis, deposit a certain amount of money to get some kind of interest income. Then we have, in financial product itself, we have market linked products for investors. In market linked products, we have got stocks that is divided into equity that we can invest through IPOs or FPOs. Then if we are not investing in the stock market through IPOs or FPOs, then we can invest in the same market through secondary market, which we call secondary market, because we have not invested in IPOs, we are buying after the IPOs. Then in market link products also, we have got, apart from shares or equities, we have got mutual funds, which are categorized in 3 categories. That is number 1, equity mutual funds. Number 2 is debt mutual funds. And number 3 is mixed, that is debt and equity mixed mutual fund, which is called a balanced mutual funds. And similarly, in market based products, we have got bonds and debentures also. Similarly, when we are going for investment of our money, we have got some non-financial investments which an investor can do. These are not through equities, they are not through mutual funds, but these are through some other things which is called bullion, gold or silver. An investor can always invest in bullion, that is in precious metals, or apart from precious metals also, real estate is also a good example of investment in which we can reap benefits over a long period of time by investing in real estates, properties, plots, farms, flats, etc. Now I'll take you through the snapshot of this presentation. The investments can be divided into investments in IPOs, FPOs, right issues, investments in secondary market. These are the takeaways of today's presentation. Investment in mutual funds, in public deposits, in buyback of securities, collective investment schemes, and dealing with a mediator or advisor or called stockbroker or sub-broker. When we deal with investment in IPOs, this is the first way of investing in stock market. That is how an initial investor starts investing his funds in equity market. There are certain do's for investing in IPOs, FPOs or right issues. When I am an equity investor, I have to look into certain important do's which I should do and certain important don'ts which I should not do while I am investing in stock market or primary market. I'll take you to the certain do's in the primary market itself. Number 1 do is read the draft red herring prospectus and pay special attention to risk factors, financials of the issuer, objects of the issue, background of the promoters, company history, outstanding litigations and defaults if any. IPO can be very lucrative from the perspective of a investor, but before I venture into investing any of my hard-earned money in IPOs or FPOs or right issues, first I have to look into the document of the company, that is the documents published by it through the SEBI and through on its websites and available in the market. That includes, this is RHPs, that is red herring prospectus, and all the documents which are on the record and also off the record. I have to make a special mention that an investor has to make certain kind of due diligence also before venturing into stock market. Another very important do is to use the ASPA process for applying IPOs and FPOs in a right issue or FPO. In case the investor is not successful in getting certain shares allotted to him and there is a refund, or there is a non-credit of shares in the demat account, in that case non-credit of shares to demat account or no refund of application money, in that case the share investor should not panic. He should not think that he has lost his money or his money is stuck somewhere. He should rather lodge a complaint to the company or its compliance officer or the RTA and also confirm the same from its bank whether it has got the refund of the money that he has invested or not. Another important do for an investor in IPOs is apply only one lot in retail category of IPO with a single PAN card. Multiplicity or duplicity should be always avoided. Apart from the do's in stock market, there are certain important don'ts also, which is stock investor should never do while investing in IPOs. For example, one of the don'ts is don't invest based on prevailing bull run for the market index or the scripts of other companies in the same industry or script of the issuer group companies. This means that one should never invest on the basis of bull run of a stock market or scripts. For example, a script of some company is already listed and then there is a requirement, there is another IPO from another same group company, same group but for the another company. Then the performance of this new company or second IPO should not be judged on the basis of the another company in the same group. Another don't is that the scripts of the same similar industry should not be compared at par. One company in the same industry could be doing very well and this company might have not done well in the past, so the record of the another company should also be seen. Another don'ts in the IPO market is do not follow rumors or illusionary advertisements. Sometimes it so happens that before IPO there are certain news of the market, unpublished, unconfirmed news which are rumors, and one investor should never follow those rumors and he should do his own due diligence to invest in stock market. Then there is another thing, don't go by any implicit or explicit promise made by the issuer. Though these promises are otherwise legally banned, but in case there are some unofficial offers or some kind of lurements from the issuer of these securities, then these implicit and explicit promises should also be ignored. Another thing that happens in case of IPOs is that there are certain prices prevailing in the grey market, that in case some investor is successful in getting certain shares, that those prices, those shares or those securities can be traded in the grey market even before they get listed. So this kind is also to be, this don't is also to be considered, that do not bank upon the prices of your securities to be allotted in the grey market, and this should always be avoided. Apart from investing in the primary market, if we have missed the bus, we can still see that there is a secondary market. An investment must not lose his heart that he has lost the opportunity to invest in the stock market. Even if the IPO's window is closed, still post allotment and post listing, the shares can be still purchased through secondary market through the stock exchange, that is BSE or NSE. So while we are investing our money in the secondary stock market, we have to see that there are again certain do's for secondary markets also. Once I have decided or I have skipped the IPOs or the primary market, now I am taking the route to invest through secondary market. In secondary market, the first important thing is to deal, that is the do's, is to transact and deal only through SEBI registered intermediaries. That is the stockbroker that I am choosing, the depository that I am choosing, and the research analyst should be SEBI registered and not otherwise. I should not choose any other stockbroker or depository that is not registered with SEBI. Another do's that while I should consider while investing in secondary market is check the credentials of the company. The credentials of the company is very important to be seen, Before investing, I have to see whether my company is good company, whether it is paying dividend or not, whether it is a compliant company, whether the due diligence is always done or not. I should also inquire about the management of the company, whether the management is sound management or not, whether the company is, whether all the directors are qualified or disqualified, is there any kind of litigation in the company. The fundamentals of the company should also be seen. Another important thing that is to be seen, that I have to also check that how many complaints or investor complaints are pending, or how many investor complaints are registered against the company, or how many unsatisfied investors are available in the company. The more the number of unsatisfied investors are in the company, or the more the number of the complaints against the company, I can have an inclination or an idea that the company is into some kind of non-compliances. Before investing, apart from this, I have to see the financial position of a company also, which can be clarified from the returns available on the website, on the SEBI, and as well as ROC also. The recent announcements or the disclosures made by the company to the stock exchange should also be seen and considered before investing in secondary market. Another important aspect of investing in secondary market is to assess the risk return profile of the investment, as well as the liquidity and safety aspects. Before I invest, I must be clear, or I must be aware about the risk that is involved in my investment, and I should be also aware of the safety aspect of the hard earned money of the investor, that is myself. When I am investing, I should always consider that the money that I am investing remains safe. The capital should always remain safe. Prices can go down in secondary market, prices can go up, but it should not like be the case that all the money that I am investing becomes zero. While I invest in secondary market, there is another important thing that has to be considered, is to scrutinize minutely both the transaction and the holding statements that I receive from my demat participant. It is important because it can be possible that I bought 500 shares and accidentally I punched 50 shares. So at the end of the day, when the settlement is done, I get only 5 shares or 50 shares or lesser amount of the share that I had purchased. It could be otherwise also. For example, I tried to purchase 50 shares and erroneously I punched 500 value. So the amount that is being debited from my account is obviously 10 times higher than what I intended to buy, and which was not my intention. And I keep quiet, remain silent, assuming that I had purchased 50 shares, and after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, I realized that actually I had not purchased 50. Might be I purchased 5, or might be I purchased 500. So the accounting, my own accounting should be in perfect shape. My depository account statement should always be in reconciliation with my bank statement. Whatever my intention was has actually met the instruction that I myself had done on my laptop or my computer. So if I bought 500 shares, it should also be reflected in my depository account. And if there is a technical glitch or something like that I notice, it should be immediately brought to the authorities that there is a system glitch and I have not received actual number of shares. Another which is very important for those investors who do margin trading, is that pay the required margins in the prescribed time. What happens if margin money is not paid after the expiry of the margin period? The shares are auctioned or the investment is auctioned, and what if the auction amount is lower than what my investment is? So actually what I am doing is I am trading something, buying some shares or equities on margin with the assumption that in future I will be earning some income. But what actually happens when margin is not paid, apart from penalty, the shares might have been auctioned or sold at a lesser price, and instead of earning some money, I end up incurring heavy losses. Another aspect of dealing in secondary market, which I was trying to discuss, is that what are the prohibitions, what are the don'ts, which things I should not do while dealing in secondary market. Number one don'ts is not to work on tips. I should not buy any shares. I should not do secondary market investment basis the tips. Another don't is don't deal with unregistered intermediaries. It is very important to know because unregistered intermediaries are nowhere to be seen once some bad transaction happens. Don't buy fundamentally unsound companies. This means that a share might be trading might is being traded at a very small amount, say 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 3 rupees, and I get a tip that within 1 month, within 15 days, it would be touching a price of 100 rupees. So this is not a fundamentally sound company. It is only a kind of penny stock which is being mechanized by some mover of the shares. So these shares should never be bought. Penny stock should not be bought, and actual research should always be done, and penny stock is always avoided. And it should be, don't buy fundamentally unsound companies, that is penny stocks, based on trading volumes or low prices or favorable news in the media. This media, what media refers, is unconfirmed media news. So penny stocks always start moving in larger volumes by unconfirmed and verified price statements, and these kind of investments should never be done by any sensible secondary market investor. Another don't is don't blindly follow investment advice given on TV channels, websites, and SMS. There are few TV channels that do research work and discuss stock market very diligently, but there could be certain websites luring the innocent investors to invest their funds in certain shares which will ultimately go into losses. There could be certain tips by way of WhatsApp messages, by way of SMS. All these tips are unsolicited, but what happens? Innocent investors invest their hard-earned money, assuming that they will invest their amount in these shares, and ultimately those share prices fall and they end up in big losses. Another important tip is for every kind of investment, don't fall prey to promises of unrealistic returns or guaranteed returns. In stock market, particularly in the secondary market, there is no guaranteed return. There is no unrealistic return. Shares of any company moves in a very systematic manner, and there cannot be any abrupt amount of increase, heavy returns on some shares immediately. So do not fall prey to any promises of unrealistic return or any guaranteed returns. Secondary market does not provide any guaranteed return. That kind of return comes in investments with fixed amount of returns. Another don'ts that I can discuss is don't undertake off-market transactions in securities. Off-market transactions should never be done by first-time investors or unexperienced investors. Then I come to the investments in secondary market, certain other do's. Secondary market is always volatile and is always risky. One has to understand the risk associated with investing in securities before undertaking any transactions. I have to be very careful when I am investing any of my hard-earned amount in secondary market. I have to understand the risks which are associated with investing in securities market. This could be a natural risk, this could be a policy risk, this could be a war-like situation, when I have to consider that whatever I am investing is a risky proposition, and I have to understand that risk before venturing into this market. If I cannot have that kind of risk appetite, then I should not enter into secondary market. Rather, I should stick to fixed income investments like PPF, FD, saving bank account, or bullion like gold or silver. Another do is invest on sound reasoning and fundamentals. Sound reasoning and fundamentals is always important in secondary market. Because unless I invest on the basis of a sound reasoning, or if the fundamentals of a company are poor or are not understandable to me, I should immediately either move out of the company if I am already invested, or I should not venture into that company if the fundamentals of the investee company or the investee entity is not sound enough. There could be possibility that one of the friends of an investor says, you buy a stock in my account or you buy investments in my account. It should also not be done. I should always insist on a contract note that comes from a demat participant for each transaction that I do, either purchase or sell, and I should personally verify all the details in the contract note, because contract note always tells me what I have done. I have debited certain shares, I have credited certain shares. What is the position of the transaction at the end of the day is reflected in the contract note. I should save the contract note for my future purpose, for my auditing purpose, for my accounting purpose. And on contract note only tells me on what date I have done that kind of transaction. So without contract note, if I instructed my stockbroker to do some transaction and he has not done it, that would be reflected in contract note. I can confront the stockbroker or my intermediary or my dealer or my broker that you have confirmed this transaction has been made, but my contract note is silent about it. So it could be possible that the broker or the mediator might not have executed your instructions of buying some shares or selling some shares, but you are under assumption that it has been done. No, it is not the case. It can only be confirmed when the contract note authenticates that this transaction has been done on your instructions. Another very, very important do's is we sometimes feel that whatever SMS or whatever WhatsApp is coming to our phone is irritating us. More particularly when we are a stock market investor, we should always be alert and we should always mandate that our trade alert should always be there. So in nutshell, it can be said registered for trade alerts on SMS and email. So whatever trade I do, I sell some shares, I buy some shares. At the end of the day, after transaction hours, I must get a trade alert that I have purchased these numbers of securities, I have sold these number of securities, followed by an alert that should be activated and that should be mandated. And I must receive it on my email ID that I very frequently use. So the confirmation should be two-sided. On my SMS also, on my WhatsApp also, and on my email, the summary of the transaction in the shape of contract note should always be there and alert should always be activated. Another aspect is to check the brokerage and the other fees are levied in the transaction are also there and are reasonable. There is another option of investors who invest for a long period of time. They are not day traders, they are not short-term traders, but they simply buy certain investments and forget it or keep it for long-term purposes, say 1 year, more than 1 year. So if I had bought Reliance share, say around 5 years back, I would have earned huge money, but I am not a trader, I am not a short-term trader. I have invested it for some purpose. My objective of trading was to keep it for long term. So in that case, I should rather use the facility of freezing my demat account, so that erroneously or by some malafide intention, some person who holds hand on my demat account does not transfer it to his account or does not sell off my shares, which is very rare. But in that case, if my option or my objective of investment is a long term, in that case, I should rather freeze my demat account. There are certain other don'ts also. Do not forget to take account of potential risks that are involved in the investment. I may repeat, I should not forget to take account of the potential risks, because every investment comes with certain cons also. There are certain risks associated with every kind of industry, let it be chemical industry, IT industry, pharma industry. Every industry comes with a risk, and I should always consider the potential risks that are involved in the investments. No investment is free of risk free. There is another important don't, which is actually a do's in the shape of don'ts. Do not hesitate to approach the proper authorities for redressal of your doubts or grievances. Sometimes what happens, a shareholder might hesitate that this is happening, this is not happening to me only, this might be happening to lakhs of investors. So I should sit silent and I should not approach any authority, or I should not be very concerned about it, because ultimately said today or tomorrow this grievance, this complaint would be redressed, so somebody will take care of. But it is not the case. It could be case where I am the only isolated person. So do not hesitate to approach the proper authorities for redressal of your doubts and grievances. I may quote an example. Could be an example where one of your relatives, say your grandfather or your grandmother or father, purchase certain shares and you are not aware of it. And the share value is today very much. But you do not know. And fortunately or unfortunately, you get to know from somebody or some relative or some document or some going through the old papers or files that certain shares were invested by your such and such relative. So you are in a doubt that whether those investments still are in force or not. So do not doubt. Take the help of some consultant, take the help of some chartered accountant, company secretary, or advocate, or even don't hesitate to approach the concerned company secretary, RTA, compliance officer of that company to know that whether such shares existed or not, and whether such shares exist in the name of your so and so relatives or not. So do not ever hesitate to approach the proper authorities for redressal of your doubts or grievances. There could be a possibility that certain company changes its name, and in your demat account you knew that you have invested your amount in the name of XYZ company, and today the name of XYZ company is not available, and fortunately the shares are also there, but the name of the company is different. So you are not aware, you might not have received the documents while the company sent to you during the process of change of name. So do not hesitate to write to the company and ask whether you have changed your name. In case it is like that, then please inform us. Do not share your trading username and password to others. This is very important, and more particularly when you are doing such kind of trading on a public platform or some cafe or some borrowed laptop or some borrowed mobile phone. Do not save the auto save options. Do not share your trading username and password to others, except that when you are very much confident and you are sitting with that person who is carrying out your instructions at your behest only. If you are doing it on your own, well and good. If you are getting it done through somebody else with the help of somebody else, just remove the user ID and password and do not save those on your laptop or your system, because you never know when that credentials can be misutilized and your shares could be sold, or any number of loss making securities could be bought on your behalf. Another don't that is very important is, don't invest on the basis of rumors and tips. The other day I took a seminar somewhere and I was asking the audience that is there any person who has a positive portfolio, and out of a gathering of hundreds only one person said I have a positive profit making portfolio. So I asked the remaining audience that what made them a negative portfolio, and majority of them told me that they had invested in the stock market basing on some tips, some advisory, some rumors, or some information roaming around in unofficial channel that this share will go up, this share will go down. So we bought those shares at a time or at a price when it was not to be bought. So the important thing is you have to do your own diligence and do not invest on the basis of rumors and tips. Tips are always dangerous in stock market. Do not follow the herd or play on momentum. This is a common thing which happens, that everybody is buying X number of securities at X number of price and they will sell it at X date. But what happens? The herd, after making the profit, leaves, but you remain stuck in that category only. You have bought the share at one price at one point of time, but you forget to sell. And what happens ultimately? The shares are sold by the herd and the price have fallen tremendously. And what you can do? You cannot do anything. The price has already fallen and you cannot sell it. The herd is out, but you are stuck in the loss-making proposition. Another don't sign blank delivery instructions. It sometimes happens that your broker or sub-broker advises you to keep your signed delivery instructions blank, without date, without the name of the script, without any instruction except your signature in his drawer or in his locker, and he says he will execute and inform you. He can execute any number of transactions because more or less you might have issued him instructions, you might have issued a letter to him, or you might have issued him a power of attorney also, and he may misutilize it, and the delivery instruction slips that you have handed over to him by signing your own signature, but those which are blank, and you should not give them. So don't sign blank delivery instruction slips and keep them with broker or DP. So tell your DP or tell your broker that whenever there is a transaction, you are readily available. You are readily available with your delivery slips, and you are readily available to sign those delivery slips and hand it over to him in no time. But in no case you should not keep your signed blank delivery instruction slips with the DP or stockbroker. Another type of investment that an investor can do, which is very safe also, it has more return sometimes than equity markets, is mutual funds. We always hear while investing in mutual funds that investments in mutual funds is subject to market risks. So when we are investing in mutual funds, which is also one of my favorite mode of investment, you read the offer document before investing. And I assume that not many investors read the offer document before investing. We simply follow certain procedures, certain practices, and start investing in mutual fund because some of our friends, some of our colleagues, some of our relatives are always doing it and earning good profit. But the first do's is always read the offer document before investing. It doesn't take much time to read the offer document. Investment in mutual funds can be risky, but it is not as risky as the primary or the secondary market of equity shares, and do not necessarily result in gains. This is also true. Some advisors suggest that investment in mutual funds is always profitable, and unlike equity shares, you do not make losses in it. But I can suggest from my own experience that investments in mutual funds is equally risky and do not always result in gains. There could be losses in one particular sector in which mutual fund might have invested, but more or less investment funds are better than equities. Another do's of mutual funds is very simple to understand. There is an old saying, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Similarly, do not put all your mutual funds in one basket. Diversify your investments. Diversification is important to balance the risk involved in investment in mutual funds. Diversify your mutual funds in different type of mutual funds. For example, some mutual fund might be investing in large cap equities, some mutual fund might be concentrating on mid caps, some might be concentrating on small caps, some might be concentrating on digital companies, some might be investing in blue chip companies, some must be concentrating in pharma companies. So whenever as an investor I'm investing, I should not put all my eggs in one basket. I should divide it. I should balance my fund by investing in number of mutual funds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the ones I can manage. I will invest in mutual funds, but I will diverse my portfolio of mutual fund itself just to balance and reduce the risk involved in the one particular mutual fund. Another do's of investment in mutual funds is past performance of a scheme, that is past performance of a particular mutual fund in which it was investing, is never indicative of the fund's future performance. For example, a fund did really well in past 3 years, but due to the change in fund manager or change in the team of fund manager or change in the incumbent, there is a new fund manager who is not as experienced as its previous incumbent was, or not as aggressive as its previous incumbent was, might make certain decisions that tremendously reduce the value or tremendously gives a setback in the NAV of the mutual funds. So what would happen? The prices of the NAV will fall down, and your investment, which I was understanding is depending on the past year's performance, falls significantly in the current year. So the past performance of any scheme or any mutual fund is never indicative of the fund's future performance. What I have to do is I have to simply make certain changes in my daily schedule. I have to keep regular track of the NAV or the funds in which I have invested. So if a sector is performing well and my NAV is going down, I should be cautious enough to know that what is happening to my fund and what is happening to the similar funds in which I have not invested. Why my NAV is going down while the whole sector is performing well, whole other mutual funds are also performing well, but my NAV is reducing. So I have to keep a regular check. If not daily basis, it could be done weekly, it could be done fortnightly, it could be done monthly. But it should not be the case that once I invest in mutual funds, I should forget it. I should never forget, because it is my hard-earned money which I have invested with some objective for some time period, a fixed time period, in anticipation of earning good amount of returns in the shape of dividend. So I should always keep a track on the NAVs of the mutual fund that I have invested. And in case there is a loss, continuing loss, then I should also consider to come out of that particular scheme, or I should switch in other scheme of the same mutual fund. Another do's of mutual fund investing is invest in a scheme depending upon investment objective and risk appetite. As I said earlier, whatever is my investment is with some objective. Primary objective is to earn money by way of dividend and returns, and some time period, that for how much time I want to stay invested in that particular scheme. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. That time period has to be decided, that objective has to be decided, and my risk appetite has to be decided. If I cannot have any amount of loss or negative appreciation in my investment, which is always there in equity and mutual funds, I should not invest in mutual funds. Then rather I should go in fixed income schemes. Then the very important aspect is always declare a nominee in your investments. What I mean to say is here is that whenever I make an investment, I should always nominate my demat account. So in case of any eventuality of my death, my legal heirs, my nominees can claim the investment value. Another important don'ts of mutual fund market is don't deal with any agent, broker who is not registered with AMFI, that is Association of Mutual Funds of India. Don't get carried away by the name of the scheme of mutual fund. It may be possible that one fund name with one company, the mutual fund is doing very well, and I investment in another scheme of which I am not even aware of. But because the mutual fund is new and the company is a well-established company with good goodwill, I invest my money in it. It is not the case that that investment in that mutual fund would always give me good results. So I must not get carried away by the name of the scheme or mutual fund. I should not invest in schemes because of commission or other incentive which some middleman or some sub-broker might offer me. Don't forget to take note of the risk involved in the investment. With every investment, it is same, that I should not take note of the risk. Don't fall prey to promises of unrealistic returns or guaranteed returns. In any investment, there is no guaranteed returns except in fixed income or fixed return investments. So if somebody is offering me that this amount of the percentage, I would be definitely sure shot. I should make investment. This is not the case. This is not a good investment. This is not a good advice. Just like bank fixed deposits, we have got public deposits. So public deposits always bring some amount of fixed percentage of interest, and I must do certain research work before investing in public deposits. I should do proper research on the financial health of the company, which is very important, such as deposit book, its size, the repayment track, the defaulters statements or the defaulting history, the interest payment, the compliances. For example, the company might be paying you interest, but it has deducted the tax and has not deposited the same with the income tax department. Check the credit rating of the company in which you are making the investment. It should be at least AAA, or it should be at least AA, and otherwise it should be at least AAA. Check for penalties for premature withdrawal of deposit. This could be a case where the premature deposits are not permissible, and in case one investor is trying to make a premature deposit, certain penalties or certain fees is involved. So you have to also see that kind of clause, that if you are in need of money, say after some time, and you want to make a premature deposit, then what is the premature penalty or fees that the company would be charging you. Read the instructions for making application for investing in public deposit. Declare nominee to your deposit. As I said in the mutual funds also, in every deposit that you make, always mention the name of a legal nominee that you want the money to be given in case some eventuality of your death is there. Proceed for legal action with SEBI, RBI and other associated regulators and even the company in case default is there and investor is feeling cheated or feeling aggrieved by the actions of the company in which it has made the deposits. This is very important because there could be certain investors who don't deposit, who don't make investment through equities in primary or secondary market or even in mutual funds, but they find public deposits or some other kind of deposits very lucrative. So apart from the do's, there are certain important do's which should always be considered before making investment in deposits. Do not get attracted towards higher interest rates. One has to consider that the rate of interest in FD, PPF, RBI, etc. is X. So if some company is offering you thrice that percentage or 4 times that percentage, that company is not going to commit. Don't get attracted towards higher interest rate. Interest rate has to be reasonable. Higher the interest rate, higher the chances or risk involved towards that investment. Do not invest in a scheme of deposit where the credit rating is poorly rated or unrated. Do not fall prey to promises of unrealistic returns or guaranteed returns. Don't blindly follow the advice of brokers because brokers always get a commission out of the amount that they bring to the company. So brokers are always determined to bring more and more pool to the investor, but it could be the case that the brokers are giving hefty amount of incentives. The incentive is always coming from the amount of your investment. So in case you are offered a very high amount of investment, which even government bonds, PPF, FDs, saving bank account is not offering, then that investment could be risky and it may be the case that the company may run away from at one time and you are left with no option but a piece of paper. Do not forget to take account of the potential risks that are involved in the investment. Rule holds good for every kind of investment. Do not hesitate to approach the proper authorities for redressal of your doubts and grievances. As I said, in any investment that you have made and you feel that there are certain grievances, one should not hesitate in approaching the proper authorities for redressal of their grievances, doubts or even complaints. Buyback of securities. This holds good when I have certain securities in my hand. Otherwise, I cannot give back my buyback securities in buyback. So, when a company is coming out with the offer of buyback, I should read the special resolution regarding the proposed buyback and then only vote for it. Maybe it could be a chance that I do not wish to sell the shares. Still, I voted in assent. So, this proposed resolution should be read and only after I understand that resolution fully, I should vote against or I should vote in favor of that. Compare the price offered in the buyback with the market price along with the EPS and book value. So as an investor, I must make a thorough check whether I really want to encash my securities by surrendering them in the buyback procedure or I want to retain it. For that, you can check the price in the market, the offer price that the company is giving, the EPS and the value of the share. Read the instructions. It is a do for making application for tendering of shares carefully. Tender shares for buyback within the offer period. If it is offered after that, there is no value. Furnish all documents asked in the offer letter. Send application through the mode specified in the offer letter. And another do is contact compliance officer of the company or the RT in case of any grievance. Then there are certain don'ts which are attached to the buyback of the securities. Don't submit multiple applications for tendering shares in buyback. Do not make your decision based on media reviews about the buyback. Have your own assessment of the proposal of buyback that you have received. Avoid overwriting in the application form, and in case you have made overwriting, do initialize it and do put your signatures there. Fill the application form legibly. Don't give wrong contradictory information in the application form. Do not give any wrong information in the application form. Do not send application after closure of the offer. Then there are collective investment schemes which companies float for attracting investments in those schemes. So when when an investor wishes to not invest in equity, mutual funds, or secondary market or deposits, then collective investment schemes are good for them. They must ensure that the entity is registered with SEBI. You have to read the offer documents, objects, and appraisal of documents carefully. Check the credit rating of the scheme and tenure of the rating. Check the viability of the project in which your money is going to be invested. Also verify the background expertise of the promoters as well as the corporate entity also. Ensure that the collective investment management committee, that is CIMC, has the necessary infrastructure to carry out the activities of the scheme that is written in the offer documents. Ensure that collective investment management company, CIMC, furnishes you the copy of the balance sheet and the annual report within 2 months from the closure of the each financial year. Then there are certain don'ts attached with CIM investments also. Don't invest in CIS entity which is not registered with SEBI. Do not invest your money based on market rumors. This holds good for every kind of investment, let it be equity, mutual funds, deposits, and collective investments or advertisements. Advertisements could be luring, advertisements could be misleading. So you have to use your own brain to assess whether you want to invest in these schemes. Do not fall prey to promises of unrealistic return. As I said in the case of FDs and deposits also, there cannot be any unrealistic return. A return has to be reasonable, because any company that is giving you returns has to first deduct its own expenses, and it cannot earn huge amount of income without any sound proposition. So unrealistic returns are fake. You have not to rely them. Guaranteed returns are also not there, that they will be giving you 60% return, 50% return, or they would be doubling your money in 1 year. It is not the case. 100% return is not there. 50% return is not there. Do not take note of risk involved. Do not forget to take note of the risk involved in the investment. And also, don't carried away by indicative returns. Indicative returns are deceptive. Do not fall prey to the indicative returns. Another aspect is when we are dealing with a stockbroker and sub-brokers. There could be certain brokers or stockbrokers who claim to be stockbrokers, SEBI registered stockbrokers, but they are not. So you have to always deal with only SEBI registered stockbrokers, and you have to ensure that you see their SEBI registration certificate and its expiry also, that they are, when you are dealing with them, they are actually registered as SEBI registered stockbrokers and sub-brokers. Ensure that the sub-broker is permitted to transact in the market. Enter into an agreement with your sub-broker or broker setting out the terms and conditions clearly. Ensure you have read what you are signing. There is a gap in the fine words or the agreement, so you have to read each and everything. Don't sign your agreement blindly. Keep track of your portfolio in your demat account on regular basis. As I said, demat account reflects your both investments in equity as well in mutual funds. You have to keep a track on it. You have to keep checking your demat account every now and then after say 7 days, 15 days. You have to declare, you can declare, and you have to declare your name of the nominee in your demat account. While dealing with your sub-broker or stockbroker, there are certain don'ts also. So don't deal with unregistered brokers, sub-brokers, or other unregistered intermediaries which might be functioning in the area. But you have to ensure that the dealer, the broker, the sub-broker that you are dealing with is registered with SEBI. Do not pay more than the approved brokerage to the intermediary. The intermediary must be charging some amount of fees on the services that he is giving to you. So you have to pay the fees through banking modes, and you have to see that you are not paying over and above what has been agreed upon in your agreement. Do not execute any document with any intermediary without fully understanding its terms and conditions. In case you do not understand the terms and conditions, seek the help of some professional or some of the person who has actual in-depth knowledge of those terms and conditions, and only after you understand those terms and conditions, then only you should go forward to sign those documents. Do not carried away by luring advertisements. As I earlier said, there could be deceptive, misleading, or luring advertisements. Do not get carried away at all by those advertisements offering you a unrealistic rate of return on your investments. Do not sign blank delivery instructions while meeting security paying obligations. With these words, I end this presentation. Thank you.
क्रिटिकल है बट वी आर ट्राइंग।
ये सब हुआ कैसे?
एक फोन आया था राजेश के पास। उसने कहा कि उनकी 1 करोड़ की लॉटरी निकली है और उसके लिए उसने बैंक डिटेल्स मांगी। राजेश ने सारी डिटेल्स दे दी। 1 घंटे के अंदर ही उनके बैंक अकाउंट से सारा पैसा साफ हो गया और वो यहाँ आ गए। हार्ट अटैक आया है।
देखा आपने, आपकी जरा सी असावधानी क्या कर सकती है। डिजिटल फ्रॉड करने वालों से सावधान रहें। अपनी बैंक डिटेल्स, अपना डेबिट या क्रेडिट कार्ड नंबर, एक्सपायरी डेट, सीवीवी, ओटीपी, पिन कभी किसी को ना बताएं। सावधान रहें, समझदार बने।
IEPF अथॉरिटी द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
हाँ जी सुरेश जी, रिटायरमेंट के बाद जो प्रोविडेंट फंड आएगा उसका क्या करेंगे?
कुछ खास प्लान नहीं है, पड़ा रहेगा बैंक में, ब्याज आता रहेगा और क्या।
सुरेश जी, बैंक से कितना ब्याज आएगा? एक नई स्कीम बताता हूँ, उसमें पैसे लगा दो। साल भर में दुगने बल्कि चौगुना हो जाएगा। हाँ, बस कुछ नए मेंबर्स बनाने।
नहीं सुरेश जी, इन सब फालतू चक्करों में मत पड़िए कि नए मेंबर बनाना, रातों रात करोड़पति बनाना, ऐसे सपने दिखाने वाली स्कीम से बचकर रहें। आप लालच में आकर नहीं, समझदारी से निवेश करें। नए मेंबर बनाओ, वर्ल्ड टूर पे जाओ, कमीशन पाओ या उपहार घर ले जाओ। ऐसे सपने दिखाने वाली स्कीम से बचकर रहें। ऐसी स्कीम्स धोखा हो सकती हैं।
IEPF अथॉरिटी, कॉर्पोरेट कार्य मंत्रालय द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
यार वो मेरे बचपन का दोस्त है, वो क्यों मुझसे झूठ कहने लगा? वो कह रहा था इस स्कीम में पैसा लगाने पर 6 महीने में 10 के 20,000 हो जाएंगे।
और तूने मान लिया?
ऐसा ऑफर कौन छोड़ता है? 10,000 के 20,000।
एक काम कर, ये ले 100 रुपये पकड़ना और जाके 10 किलो लड्डू लेके आ।
अबे पागल है क्या? 100 रुपए में 10 किलो लड्डू आते हैं? अबे इसके तो 1 किलो लड्डू भी नहीं आएंगे।
जब इतना जानता है तो ये नहीं जानता कि 6 महीने में 10,000 के 20,000 नहीं होते। समझदारी बढ़ा, लालच नहीं।
लालच में ना आए, समझदारी बढ़ाएं। IEPF अथॉरिटी द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
कैनवास में रंग भरकर उसे जीवित बना देना एक कला कहलाती है। इसी तरह अपनी जमा पूंजी बढ़ाकर जिंदगी बना लेना भी एक कला ही है। मैंने भी ये स्टूडियो ऐसे ही बनाया है, पाई पाई जमा करके।
मुझे भी लोग फोन करते हैं, मेल करते हैं, मुझे कन्विंस करते हैं कि उनकी इन्वेस्टमेंट स्कीम्स बहुत अच्छी है।
उन लोगों के भी रेफरेंसेस देते हैं जिन्हें फ़ायदा हुआ है, पर मैं अपनी रिसर्च खुद करती हूँ। आपको भी यही करना चाहिए। सरकार की कुछ वेबसाइट्स हैं जिन पर जाकर आप अपने निवेश से संबंधित पूरी जानकारी ले सकते हैं, और ये वेबसाइट्स हैं मैं अपने पैसों को लेकर सावधान रहती हूँ, आप भी रहिए।
IEPF अथॉरिटी द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
Do you wish to be part of a television studio like this, or any other media system? Or already part of any media system, want to enhance a new set of skills? Welcome to School of Journalism and New Media Studies. Here in the School of Journalism and New Media Studies, we are offering program for all set of people to learn and enhance the media skills. The vision of School of Journalism and New Media Studies is to generate a new set of professionals in the area of media and communication studies with understanding about role of media in the national development and global understanding. We offer innovative programs in the field of journalism and mass communication that sets the benchmark of high quality learning and teaching process at the national level. We offer these programs across the country with the help of our regional network as well as study center. Same manner, many of our programs are offered through online mode with a sophisticated learning management system. SOGNMS offers programs from PhD in journalism and mass communication till certificate level. We have masters in journalism and mass communication. The eligibility is bachelor's degree, and we are introducing this program in 3 languages: Hindi, Tamil and English. Students from national and international students can join either through online mode as well as in the distance mode. We have 4 postgraduate diploma programs, specialized areas in the field of development communication, digital media, electronic media and journalism and mass communication program. And all these 4 programs are available in distance mode. 2 programs are available in online mode, development communication and digital media. And we have specialized certificate program in community radio. IGNOU employs various media and communication tools for better teaching and learning process. School of Journalism and New Media Studies utilizes this media system for delivering all our programs. Come and join with us for exploring a new career and enhance your media skills.
Hello learners, welcome to this session on social contract theory of John Locke. After listening to this lecture, actually you will be able to understand the John Locke's theory of social contract, how we describe the human nature, at the same time how we describe the state of nature, and at the same time what are the terms and conditions and what are the premises of the John Locke's theory of social contract. And also you will be able to draw the distinction and the differences between what are the differences between the John Locke and John Locke and Thomas Hobbes social contract theory. I hope some of you have already attended for my last session, which was on Thomas Hobbes social contract theory. So today I will be discussing about the social contract theory of John Locke. He is one of the major thinker on this contract theory actually. So let us discuss this social contract theory of John Locke. Before we going to understand any thinker, we have to take into consideration of his life and times, because we have to understand the life and times of any of the thinker, any of the political philosopher. Then only we will be able to understand the thinker in a proper context and in a right perspective. That is very, very essential. So in these circumstances, we have to see that how the John Locke was born in the conditions when he was born, and what are the social and economic conditions of England at that time, and these conditions influenced the John Locke. What are the things which he has brought actually from the social and economic conditions of those days. That also we have to be very, very carefully understand. Then only we can understand the John Locke in a proper and right perspective. So John Locke was born in the year 1632, a place called Rington at Somersetshire in England. So he was born in a very middle class family. He was born in a middle class family. His father was a lawyer and a land owner of a moderate means. He did not have any kind of struggles in life like Thomas Hobbes, in contrast to the Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes was born as a premature baby in a civil war conditions in England. So his entire theories was theorized to actually support the monarchic government and a despotic government, a Leviathan kind of government, to save the England from the civil war conditions. But here, in contrast to the Thomas Hobbes, John Locke was born in a very middle class family, and father was a very lovable father, and he was a landowner and moderate means of landowner. Apart from that, he is a great supporter of the parliament. In those days, actually there was a great struggle was going on between this monarch and the parliament. Parliament was emerging, and parliament was demanding that the monarch or the king cannot impose any kind of taxes without consent of the parliament. So parliament was gradually actually emerging. At the same time, it was trying to establish the supremacy over the monarch. So that was the context actually. In that social conditions, John Locke was born, and he was sent to in the early education was actually started in the home itself, very early days itself, by a tutor. Later, Locke was sent to the Christchurch College, where he was graduated in that college. After that, he has completed his masters also in the year 1658 from the Oxford University. So he was basically a well-educated person. At the same time, wherever he went actually, he had a very wonderful and harmonious relations with the family members. At the same time, wonderful friends in everywhere, wherever he goes. So that was one of the major, at the same time, a positive impact on the John Locke's thinking process itself. So in this background, we have to understand the John Locke. So he was, after the completion of the education, he was appointed as a tutor sometime. So he was appointed as a tutor. During this time only, he has some kind of came to contact with the royal family. But however, he was continued his tutor position actually very short term, and he was not at all interested in teaching. So he was interested in the studying of medicine. So because of his interest in the medicine, in the year 1666, he went to a famous physician, an eminent physician called David Thomas, to study the medicine. So with David Thomas actually he has started learning the medicine, and he studied the medicine. So during this period actually he has came to contact with the Earl of Shaftesbury, that is nothing but Lord Ashley. So this Lord Ashley, Earl of Shaftesbury, means here you have to understand that it is a royal position, as a highest, one of the social position in the royal position at that time. It is in the monarchy at that time, it is one of the one of the highest social position. So Lord Ashley was in that Earl of the Shaftesbury, and he came to contact with that, and he was Lord Ashley was patronized by this John Locke. So in these circumstances, John Locke becoming very popular in the intellectual circles as a thinker, as a philosopher, as a original thinker actually. At the same time, his ideas were very, very radical in those days, in the sense that he was very strongly advocating for the supremacy of the parliament. So the parliament was emerging at that time. At the same time, there is seeds of the liberalism. The seeds of the liberalism based on the human rights or the individual rights, free trade and practice was coming up those days. So when this liberalism was coming up, when the individuals were actually, it was advocation, he was also strongly advocating that the individual knows his best. So it is the duty of the state only to do some kind of regulatory affairs. The state should not, the state or the government should not interfere into all the affairs of the human beings, all the affairs of the human activities. It should be confined to only the law and order and protecting the natural rights, whatever the rights available to the citizens at that time. That was the ideas, that such kind of ideas were coming up. So in these circumstances, when the John Locke was actually advocating strongly for the supremacy of the parliament, then he was not, the kingdom, the royal family was not happy with him. At the same time, in the year actually 1683, actually there was a plot, actually the assassination, I was accused in the assassination plot of this Charles II and James, the royal king and the things. So in these circumstances, he was not able to stay in the England because of this Ray House plot accused he was. So he was not able to stay because of this. There was a danger for his life. So in this kind of social conditions and the conditions, he has to leave the England, and he left the England and took asylum in the Holland actually. So during this asylum in the Holland, in the 1683, Locke started reading a lot of philosophical works of other philosophers of those especially Aristotle and previous political thinkers, and the premises of their political theory, and he started understanding many ways. And also his major works were also the primary writings or the things were actually done. The rough work was done, all his works, and during this asylum. So in these conditions, actually there was one of the major important event in the history of the England at the same time in the history of the political philosophy, is that the Glorious Revolution in the year 1688. So in the year 1688, Glorious Revolution took place in England. This Glorious Revolution, otherwise known as the Bloodless Revolution also, because without having any kind of violence, without having any bloodshed, actually the King James II was actually thrown out, and William and Mary was asked to take over the England throne. So this is the very, very important thing. So this Glorious Revolution, in this Glorious Revolution, people revolted against the monarch, and they have dethroned this monarch James II, and actually they have invited the Mary and William of Orange in place of James II. So this was actually done in a very, very wonderful revolution, that is without having bloodshed and anything. So this is the one of the important event in these circumstances. Actually, when after this Glorious Revolution, John Locke was very well acquainted with the William of Orange. Because of his closeness to the William of Orange, actually he comes back to the England. So after coming back to the England, John Locke's major work is that, major thing is that he has done is that his major intention is that theorizing this Glorious Revolution and giving the theoretical premise to this Glorious Revolution and supporting the emerging parliament and limiting the powers of the government through his theories. That is the major intention of this thing, because at that time the liberalism and individualism, free markets was coming up, emerging the things. At the same time, there was a tendency, at the same time there was an argument that government should be limited, and it should have the consent of the people actually. Without consent of the people, government should not rule, or the ruler cannot rule. And if that was the major ideas at the time coming up. So if we, in these circumstances, actually after this Glorious Revolution, his his works was actually coming out after this Glorious Revolution. The major works of the John Locke is that two treatises on civil government. This is one of the important work. And after that, actually, an essay concerning the human understanding and the letter concerning the tolerance. These three are the major works of John Locke. So in these three major works of John Locke, we can understand the political philosophy of the John Locke. At the same time, what are the arguments of the John Locke, how John Locke has influenced these by the social conditions, how he is theorizing his ideas and ideals, especially to give a theoretical premises to the Glorious Revolution. That was the important thing which we have to understand. So here we have to understand that whenever in contrast, John Locke we have to understand in contrast with the Thomas Hobbes. In Thomas Hobbes' case, actually Thomas Hobbes' description of the human nature itself is very pessimistic actually. The Thomas Hobbes was born in Civil War conditions as a premature baby. Because of that, because fear and other things has influenced Thomas Hobbes. So Thomas Hobbes gave a very dark and gloomy picture about the human nature. But John Locke, in contrast to the Thomas Hobbes, completely opposite or a new description of human nature is given in his social contract theory. We have to understand here, as per the Thomas Hobbes, human beings are very wicked, selfish, cruel, and evil in nature. But in case of the John Locke, human nature is very social, and human beings are social minded, decent and orderly. They themselves can rule themselves, at the same time they are capable of ruling themselves. This was the basic difference between the Thomas Hobbes human nature at the same time John Locke's human nature. Basically, according to the John Locke, human beings are ruled by three major qualities. These three major qualities are nothing but the reason, passion and superstition. However, very few people actually ruled with the reason. Very few human beings, very few people only will be having some kind of quality of the reason. So they will act as per the reason and rationality. They will be having the character of the rationality. They will be understanding and examining the things in a rational manner. However, majority of the human beings, the majority of the mankind will be actually ruling by the passion and superstitions. Majority of the people will be going by their passions and superstitions without having any kind of logic or rationality. They will be ruled by a kind of irrationality only. However, they are social in nature. They are very social minded. At the same time, they are capable of themselves ruling themselves. So these are the major things of the Thomas Hobbes, John Locke's description of the human nature. So it is completely different with the Thomas Hobbes. Apart from that, actually we have to understand here also how John Locke is differing from the Thomas Hobbes in the description of the state of nature also. It is obvious because of that, because the human nature, the concept of the human nature is also totally different from the Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. So in this premises, in this state of human nature, actually state of nature also will be different from the Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes' state of nature is a solitary, poor, nasty, brutish and short. The state of nature described by the Thomas Hobbes is that the solitary, poor, nasty, brutish and short, because the human beings are very selfish, wicked and cruel. So in contrast to that, John Locke describes the state of nature as there is a social life in the state of nature. Here we have to understand what is state of nature. State of nature is nothing but the state of affairs before the human beings entering into a civil society and establishing the civil society. So before this man-made laws and entering into the civil society, some kind of rules and regulations came into existence. The people were living in a very natural way, very natural manner. That is as termed as state of nature in the social contract theory by the social contract theorists actually. So Thomas Hobbes' social contract theory is a very dark and gloomy. John Locke, in contrast to the Thomas Hobbes, actually, he says that there is no political life in the state of nature. However, there is a social life. There is a social life, and it is a state of peace, at the same time goodwill and preservation, and people are assisting themselves. Mutual assistance and preservation is very much there in the state of nature. At the same time, these human beings are ruled by actually a law of nature and natural rights. So the law of nature is nothing but they lived in a by the natural laws. Then how they will be preserving, they will be having their fulfilling their biological needs and necessities without having any kind of problems. But at the same time, they had some kind of natural rights, inalienable rights, which cannot be separated from the human being. Those are bestowed by the nature itself on the human beings. Those rights are nothing but life, liberty and property. According to John Locke, theory actually, the natural rights are very much there in the to the human beings. Nature itself bestowed that life, it is a fundamental thing. So life, liberty, at the same time property is also considered as one of the important thing because of the social conditions and influence of those days. So these three rights they were enjoying the state of nature. So in these circumstances, in these social conditions and things, there was this state of nature has become some kind of inconvenience. There are some kind of inconveniences coming up actually, because there was no established, settled and known law. Nobody there to implement any kind of executive action to do that any decision, implement any decision, enforce any just decision, or nobody is there to judge the things or interpret the things in a proper manner. So this state of nature, because of this ambiguity, nobody was there, no man made rules and regulations. So in these conditions, people started interpreting the law of nature as for their own convenience and their own benefit. So this led to the actually a kind of inconvenience, and gradually people started actually, when they were exchanging the things with the other things, like the water system was prevailing, there was no much problem. When a kind of currency kind of thing actually started in the initial days, actually people started preserving it and acquiring the property. So this led actually the personal property actually led to the personal property, acquiring the personal property for more and more. Then it led to the kind of chaos and kind of inconvenience in the state of nature, where the people were living and ruled by a law of nature and with the natural rights. So what is the way out from these conditions? So human beings actually, because of this inconvenience, because of this kind of problems they are facing, and their liberty and natural rights were in danger, in such circumstances actually Locke argues that actually they came to contract and then they entered into the civil society. So here they because to do away with these problems actually, and the way out from these problems and the inconvenience in the state of nature, so it is the way forward is that entering into the contract by all the human beings, and establishing a civil society. That was the one of the important thing which we have to understanding in this social contract theory. So it is basically nothing but human beings entered into the social contract and a theory, this a contract, a treaty, and established a civil society. By entering into this contract, they entered into a civil society. So what they did is that, as for the according to Thomas Hobbes, actually there is only a one contract in the social in his Thomas Hobbes social contract theory. In contrast to the Thomas Hobbes social contract theory, John Locke's social contract theory, there are two contracts. The two contracts are the treaties. We can say that the first contract is nothing but a civil society is established by the people to do away with this state of nature affairs. And the second, through the second contract, actually the government came into existence. So this government is nothing but a kind of a fiduciary power actually. It is a kind of a trust given by the people to the government, or the trustees kind of thing actually. So the government is very, very limited, and it cannot take away the fundamental freedoms and liberties of the people. So here the idea of limited government is very strongly advocated here actually, the things is. So in the first contract, people came, civil society was established, and the second contract actually the government came into existence. He could able to distinguish between the society and the government, or the state and government in a very broad meaning in the political philosophy theory. So here is that the government came into existence as a kind of a limited power to do some of the assigned things by the people itself. So the human beings are center, and through this social contract theory, by saying that human beings are center, at the same time the government is limited, and government has should be consent from the people. The people's consent is very much required for this government. That is the basic idea and the basic premise of this social contract theory of John Locke here. So what are the terms of the conditions? Terms and conditions of the social contract theory here is that, so basically this government which is came into existence in the second contract is that actually it has to protect the natural rights. As we was discussing about the natural rights, which is nature has bestowed to the human beings, those are life, liberty and property. These need to be protected by the government. So government cannot rule as for its own whims and fancies. In case of the Thomas Hobbes social contract theory, we can say that Thomas Hobbes established a despotic ruler, a Leviathan kind of government. He doesn't have any kind of limitations. The government can act as for its own way actually. Nobody can question, the human beings cannot question the government, cannot rebel against the government in Thomas Hobbes social contract theory. However, in the social contract theory of the John Locke, people has every right to rebel against the government if the government is not able to protect their fundamental liberties, at the same time natural rights, whatever the things, acquired things they have in a very in a natural justice way, natural way they are acquiring these things. So those things cannot be taken away by the government. By stating that, actually here is that John Locke is very clearly limiting the powers and functions of the government. Government is limited. It cannot interfere into every affair of the human beings. It can only do certain functions which are assigned by human beings through their consent, through their contract to the government. That is one of the important thing which we have to understand here. So here to theorize theorizing like that, actually John Locke was very much influenced by the Glorious Revolution. So the Glorious Revolution actually thrown away this James. At the same time, they have invited this William and Orange to take over the England kingdom. So when this James was very despotic, at the same time ruling as per his despotic manner with his whims and fancies, and without taking into consideration of the human rights and human liberties and other major fundamental things of the human nature, in that circumstances actually the Glorious Revolution took place, and the Glorious Revolution is the one of the major importance in his social contract theory. Because of that, actually the John Locke has given the right to rebel against the government if the government is not able to perform these things. So this is the basic political ideas and political theory of the John Locke. So let us assess this, what is the place of John Locke here actually. So John Locke is considered to be the as the pioneering person in the philosophical liberalism. The liberalism and liberalist tendencies were coming up in those days. So he is the champion of the natural rights, especially the natural rights, human beings. And it was the conditions in the England conditions at that time. Actually, this free trade, liberty, individualism was very much coming up. It was emerging like a very radical, at the same time very in a progressive ideas manner actually. So John Locke became the champion of theorizing all these things and giving a theoretical premises for these rights. He became the champion of the rights. At the same time, he is the person who has given a philosophical foundations for the liberal ideas. At the same time, he is the prophet of the consent in politics actually. It means that any government which came to power has the consent, requires the consent of the people. That is very essential. Without the consent of the people, actually government cannot function. So people are the supreme here, in a way that he is gradually trying to establish a kind of a popular sovereignty. At the same time, by limiting the government powers, at the same time telling that government should not interfere in each and every activity or the every sphere of the human life. So this way actually, because of theorized his social contract theory, through his social contract theory he became the pioneering person of the philosophical liberalism, champion of rights. At the same time, he has given made the consent is a very important phenomena to the government actually. So these are the things which we have to understand in the John Locke's political philosophy. At the same time, John Locke's social contract theory, especially. With these things, I will conclude here. Thank you.
आइए अब आपको दिखाते हैं एक गीत जिसे गा रही हैं विदुश्री पांडे।
है मेरे प्यारे वतन, है मेरे बिछड़े चमन, तुझ पे दिल कुर्बान। तू ही मेरी आरज़ू, तू ही मेरी आबरू, तू ही मेरी शान। है मेरे प्यारे वतन, है मेरे बिछड़े चमन, तुझ पे दिल कुर्बान। तेरे दामन से जो आए उन हवाओं को सलाम। तेरे दामन से जो आए उन हवाओं को सलाम। चूम लूँ मैं उस जुबां को जिस पे आए तेरा नाम। सबसे प्यारी सुबह तेरी, सबसे रंगी तेरी शाम, तुझ पे दिल कुर्बान। तू ही मेरी आरज़ू, तू ही मेरी आबरू, तू ही मेरी जान। माँ का दिल बन के कभी सीने से लग जाता है तू। माँ का दिल बन के कभी सीने से लग जाता है तू। और कभी नन्ही सी बेटी बन के याद आता है तू। जितना याद आता है मुझको उतना तड़पाता है तू। तुझ पे दिल कुर्बान। तू ही मेरी आरज़ू, तू ही मेरी आबरू, तू ही मेरी जान।
Namaskar and welcome. Today I will talk about a very important topic, and this is a part of our diploma program in paralegal practice, diploma in paralegal practice, which is offered by School of Law. This is a 1-year duration program, and now admissions are open for July sessions. This program is offered in Hindi and English, so I will be bilingual My slides will be in English and I will speak in Hindi and English. Civil procedure is covered by our Civil Procedure Code 1908, and this code has been amended in 2000 substantially. This is the main enactment which deals with civil procedure. तो सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड जो 1908 में पास हुआ वो सिविल प्रोसीजर के बारे में बात करता है, लेकिन इससे पहले हम एक दो कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं जिसको समझना ज़रूरी है। पहली चीज़ तो दो तरह के लॉज हम मानते हैं, पहला सब्सटेंटिव लॉ और दूसरा प्रोसीजरल लॉ। तो सब्सटेंटिव लॉ में राइट्स एंड ऑब्लिगेशंस पार्टीज़ की, उनकी ड्यूटीज़ क्या हैं, उनके अधिकार क्या हैं, वो सारी चीज़ें होती हैं। जैसे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट है 1972 का, जिसमें कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की डेफिनेशन, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का कैसे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंटर हो सकते हैं, उसकी कंडीशंस क्या हैं, कौन से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स वॉइड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स हैं, कौन से वॉइडेबल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स हैं, परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वगैरह के बारे में बात है, डैमेजेस की बात है। इस तरह से ट्रांसफ़र ऑफ प्रॉपर्टीज़ एक्ट में प्रॉपर्टी के डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ ट्रांसफ़र, लीज, लाइसेंस, लीज, सेल, मॉर्गेज वगैरह के बारे में बात है। इसी तरीके से दूसरे लॉज हैं, फैमिली लॉ है, हिंदू मैरिज एक्ट है, स्पेसिफिक रिलीफ एक्ट है, कंपनीज एक्ट हैं, बहुत सारे जो कानून हैं हमारे देश में वो हैं जिसमें पार्टियों के ऑब्लिगेशंस, डेफिनेशंस, डिफरेंट कॉन्सेप्ट्स क्या हैं उनको समझाने की बात होती है। और प्रोसीजरल लॉ जो होता है वो डील करता है कि अगर आपके किसी राइट का वायलेशन हुआ है तो उसके लिए आप जब जाएंगे कोर्ट में तो वहाँ कॉन्सेप्ट क्या, उसकी प्रक्रिया क्या होगी, आपके अधिकारों को आपको मिलें, आप उसको अवेल कर पाएँ, उसको एनफोर्स कर पाएँ, उसका प्रोसीजर क्या होगा। जैसे कोर्ट में आप जाएं तो आप कैसे क्या करेंगे, पहले आप उसमें प्लेंट फाइल करेंगे, फिर दूसरी पार्टी उसका रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट फाइल करेगी, इश्यूज़ फ्रेम होंगे, एविडेंस कैसे लीड की जाएगी, और अगर कोई डॉक्यूमेंट्स वगैरह आपको देखने हैं तो उसके लिए क्या प्रक्रिया है, विटनेस को कैसे एग्ज़ामिन किया जाएगा, विटनेस को कैसे बुलाया जाएगा कोर्ट में, ये सारी चीज़ें प्रोसीजरल लॉ में गवर्न होती हैं। तो मोटे मोटे तौर पे हम अगर बात करें तो सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड 1908 का, क्रिमिनल प्रोसीजर कोड 1973 और एविडेंस एक्ट क्योंकि सिविल और क्रिमिनल दोनों तरह की प्रोसीडिंग्स में लागू होता है। लेकिन इसका ये मतलब नहीं है, ये एक मोटा मोटा बात समझाने की है। अदरवाइज सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड में या क्रिमिनल प्रोसीजर कोड में कुछ ऐसे प्रोविजंस हो सकते हैं जिनको आप कहें कि सब्सटेंटिव नेचर के हैं, जिसमें जैसे अपील वगैरह की बात है, रेफरेंस रिवीजन की को अगर कहीं जजमेंट को डिफ़ाइन किया है, डिक्री को डिफ़ाइन किया है, तो वो आप कह सकते हैं कि वो कहीं ना कहीं सब्सटेंटिव नेचर के प्रोविजन। इसी तरह से जो सब्सटेंटिव लॉ है उसमें भी कई बार कुछ प्रोसीजरल प्रोविजंस होते हैं, कुछ प्रोविजंस होते हैं कि जैसे मॉर्गेज वगैरह में, ट्रांसफ़र ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट में कुछ प्रोविजंस हैं जिसको आप कह सकते हैं कि वो प्रोसीजरल नेचर के हैं। लेकिन मोटा मोटा जो डिस्टिंक्शन समझने के लिए हम कहते हैं कि प्रोसीजरल लॉ में जो कोर्ट्स वगैरह से, ट्रिब्यूनल्स, जो भी बॉडीज़ हैं उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए, उस लॉ को एनफोर्स करने के लिए उनके बारे में बात करता है। अगर हम देखें कि व्हाट इज़ द डिफरेंस बिटवीन सिविल लॉ एंड क्रिमिनल लॉ, सो देर आर मेनली two or three types of differences. Firstly, when a crime is committed, it is considered to be the act against the society, a criminal act, a wrong act against the state. तो आपने देखा होगा जब भी कभी क्रिमिनल केसेस में ऐसा होता है स्टेट वर्सेस ये या एक्स वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ यूपी या स्टेट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र, इस तरह से आपने देखा होगा। तो उसका मतलब ये है कि स्टेट उसमें राज्य एक पार्टी होता है, क्योंकि ये माना जाता है कि कोई क्राइम अगर कमिट हुआ है तो वो सोसाइटी के लिए अच्छा नहीं है, सोसाइटी के लिए हानिकारक है, तो राज्य उसमें एक्शन ले। उसमें अगर आप कोई आपके पास चॉइस नहीं है, कोई अगर चाहे किसी जिसके खिलाफ कोई अपराध हुआ है वो चाहे कि उस व्यक्ति को सज़ा ना मिले, तो उस तरह की चॉइस नहीं है, क्योंकि वो हाँ ये है कि कुछ ऐसे कुछ छोटे छोटे ऑफेंसेस होते हैं जिसमें कंपाउंडिंग का प्रोविज़न होता है कि पार्टी आपस में उसको सेटल कर सकती है, तो वो बहुत जो सीरियस नेचर के ऑफेंसेस नहीं, लेकिन जो गंभीर प्रकृति के मर्डर, रेप या फाइनेंशियल एम्बेजलमेंट, मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग वगैरह के जो ऑफेंसेस हैं उसमें आपकी पार्टीज़ के पास ऑप्शन नहीं है कि वो उसको माफ़ कर सकें। अगर वो किसी ने क्राइम किया है तो उस क्राइम की उसको सज़ा मिलेगी। तो क्राइम जो है वो अगेंस्ट द स्टेट होता है, और क्राइम में या तो आपको उसमें जो उसका जो उसकी जो सज़ा है वो जिसको हम कहते हैं पनिशमेंट, क्राइम अगर किसी ने किया है तो उसके लिए उसको पनिशमेंट मिलेगा। वो पनिशमेंट उसको इम्प्रिजनमेंट हो सकता है, लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट हो सकता है, डेथ पेनल्टी भी हो सकती है, या फ़ाइन भी हो सकता है, या दोनों हो सकते हैं कि इम्प्रिजनमेंट हो जाए, फ़ाइन भी हो जाए। और जहाँ तक सिविल केसेस की बात है तो इसमें कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का डिस्प्यूट है, किसी ने किसी के साथ आपने समझौता, आपका कुछ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ और उसने उसका पालन नहीं किया, या प्रॉपर्टी का कोई डिस्प्यूट है, तो ये माना जाता है कि वो सिविल नेचर का मतलब कि वो दो इंडिविजुअल्स के बीच का मामला है, वो क्राइम अगेंस्ट स्टेट नहीं है। तो दो इंडिविजुअल्स जो है वो चाहे तो एक दूसरे के खिलाफ लिए कोर्ट में जा सकते हैं, चाहे तो नहीं जा सकते। किसी ने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का वायलेशन किया तो दूसरी पार्टी चाहे तो कोर्ट में जाए, कहे ना जाए, आपस में सेटल कर ले या कुछ ना करे, वो उस पर डिपेंड करता है। और इसके लिए जो रेमेडी होती है वो जनरली कॉम्पनसेशन या डैमेजेस होती है, कि अगर किसी पार्टी ने किसी का नुकसान किया है, अपने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का पालन नहीं किया, अपने हिस्से का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं पालन किया, तो उसके लिए उसको कॉम्पनसेट करना पड़ता है। कॉम्पनसेशन का मतलब ये होता है कि वो पहले वाली स्थिति में उसको वापस आ जाए, वो व्यक्ति जितना उसको नुकसान हुआ है वो नुकसान की एक तरह से भरपाई हो जाए। इसी तरीके से अगर हम देखें तो जो सिविल नेचर के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के ऑफेंसेस हैं, कई बार इसमें कुछ छोटे छोटे रॉन्ग्स भी होते हैं, जैसे लॉ ऑफ टॉर्ट्स में आपने देखा, लॉ ऑफ टॉर्ट्स में जो सिविल रॉन्ग्स हैं, डिफेमेशन है, बैटरी है, असॉल्ट है, मैलिशियस प्रोसिक्यूशन है, इस तरह कई तरह के सिविल रॉन्ग्स भी होते हैं जो कहीं ना कहीं क्रिमिनल उससे मिलते हैं, क्राइम से मिलते जुलते हैं, लेकिन वो क्योंकि उनको वो सिविल रॉन्ग्स भी हैं तो उसमें अनलिक्विडेटेड डैमेजेस की जैसे हम बात करते हैं, जिसको साथ में किसी को कुछ नुकसान हुआ है उसकी वजह से, तो वो उसके लिए डैमेजेस क्लेम कर सकता है। तो ये एक मोटा मोटी अगर हम बात करें तो सिविल जो मैटर्स होते हैं उसमें इट्स अ क्राइम, इट्स अ मैटर बिटवीन टू इंडिविजुअल्स, whereas in the criminal cases it's a matter between the state and the individual, and the state has the duty to punish the offender. अगर हम बात करें सिविल कोर्ट्स की, तो कोर्ट्स का हमारे यहाँ हम देखते हैं कि एक सिस्टम है, एक हायरार्की है। डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स होते हैं, डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स के नीचे अब डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स में भी एडिशनल कोर्ट्स होते हैं, जैसे डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज, एडिशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट जजेस की जो क्योंकि डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज के जो वर्कलोड है उसको मैनेज करने के लिए, उसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करने के लिए एडिशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट जजेस होते हैं। सिविल जज जूनियर डिवीज़न और सीनियर डिवीज़न होता है। इनकी सिविल जज जूनियर डिवीज़न में वैल्यूएशन का होता है कि कितने अमाउंट तक के केसेस सुन सकते हैं। जैसे मान लीजिए 25,000 की बात है, हम 25,000 तक, जैसे उदाहरण के लिए कि 25,000 तक की वैल्यूएशन का जो मामला है वो सिविल जज जूनियर डिवीज़न सुनेगा, और उसके ऊपर की वैल्यूएशन का जो मैटर है वो सिविल जज सीनियर डिवीज़न सुनेगा। ये समय समय पे ये रिवाइज़ होती रहती है। और जनरली जो सिविल जूनियर डिवीज़न होते हैं वो जनरली नए जजेस, जो नए अपॉइंटीज़ होते हैं, जिनको थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस हो जाता है, तो वो सीनियर डिवीज़न सिविल जज सीनियर डिवीज़न उनको प्रमोट कर दिया जाता है। इससे स्मॉल कॉज कोर्ट्स होते हैं जो छोटे छोटे मामले हैं, 5,000 10,000 तक के जो वैल्यूएशन के मामले होते हैं उनको सुनते हैं। अब यहाँ पे थोड़ी सी बात मैं आपको एक और बताऊँ कि आजकल एक ट्रेंड शुरू हुआ है, काफ़ी समय से है वैसे तो, कि कुछ ख़ास तरह के मामलों के लिए अलग से कोर्ट्स बनाने की बात है, या अलग से कोई फोरम बनाने की बात है। उनको आप स्ट्रिक्ट सेंस में कोर्ट नहीं भी कहेंगे। जैसे कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट में हम देखते हैं कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट फोरम होता है, स्टेट फोरम होता है, नेशनल कमीशन है। तो वो चाहे वो सिविल नेचर के ही डिस्प्यूट है, लेकिन वो रेगुलर कोर्ट्स में वो मैटर नहीं ट्राई होते, उनके लिए अलग से एक व्यवस्था बनी हुई है। तो फैमिली कोर्ट्स हैं, फैमिली कोर्ट्स का अपना एक फैमिली कोर्ट्स एक्ट है, उसमें उसका एक प्रोसीजर है। कमर्शियल कोर्ट्स आजकल आप सुनते होंगे कि कमर्शियल कोर्ट्स हैं, कमर्शियल कोर्ट्स में भी उनका भी एक प्रोसीजर उसमें कमर्शियल कोर्ट एक्ट में प्रोसीजर लेट डाउन है। तो कई बार ये होता है कि अभी कई केसेस में कोर्ट ने ये कहा है कि अगर कोई मैटर कमर्शियल कोर्ट में है तो उसमें सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड अप्लाई नहीं करेगा। जो कमर्शियल कोर्ट एक्ट के जो प्रोविजंस हैं वो उनका एक ओवरराइटिंग इफेक्ट होगा। इसी तरह से एनवायरनमेंट से रिलेटेड कई जगह पे ट्रिब्यूनल्स होते हैं, और लैंड रेवेन्यू वगैरह के जो रेवेन्यू कोर्ट्स होते हैं वो भी सिविल नेचर के ही होता है, लेकिन उसको कुछ मैटर्स को हमने कह दिया कि वो रेवेन्यू मैटर्स हैं, तो उसके लिए रेवेन्यू कोर्ट्स बना दिए। तहसीलदार वगैरह के, डिस्ट्रिक्ट मैजिस्ट्रेट वगैरह के कोर्ट्स होते हैं। तो इस तरीके से ये एक सिस्टम है कोर्ट्स का। इसी के साथ साथ अब आजकल आप देखते हैं कि अल्टरनेटिव डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन की भी बात होती है कि आर्बिट्रेशन सेक्शन 89 जो सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड का है, उसमें ये प्रोविज़न है कि कोर्ट किसी मैटर को आर्बिट्रेटर को या मीडिएटर को रेफ़र कर सकता है। कि आर्बिट्रेटर जनरली होता है कि पार्टीज़ अपने आप डिसाइड करती हैं, पार्टीज़ खुद या कोर्ट भी डिसाइड करता है, तो वो उसमें स्ट्रिक्टली प्रोसीजरल लॉ फॉलो नहीं होता है। उसमें जनरली ये होता है कि जो किसी फील्ड के जानकार लोग हैं, एक्सपर्ट लोग हैं, या ऐसे लोग हैं जो बीच बचाव कर सकते हैं दोनों पार्टीज़ के बीच में, चाहे वो लॉ नहीं जानते हैं लेकिन बेसिक प्रोसीजरल लॉ ना जानते हों, लेकिन सब्सटेंटिव जो प्रोविजंस हैं उसको इन्फोर्स कराने के लिए तो आर्बिट्रेटर अपॉइंट किए जाते हैं। आर्बिट्रेटर के कोर्ट एक दो पर्पस हैं इसके, एक तो कोर्ट का जो वर्कलोड है वो कम हो, दूसरा एक इनफॉर्मल सेटअप में डिस्प्यूट्स को सेटल कर सकें पार्टीज़। इस उद्देश्य से ये अल्टरनेटिव डिस्प्यूट्स रेजोल्यूशन मैकेनिज़्म भी आजकल फॉलो किया था। ऑनलाइन डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन मैकेनिज़्म ऑनलाइन भी आजकल, ख़ास तौर पे जो कमर्शियल डिस्प्यूट्स होते हैं, कंपनीज़ के बीच के जो मैटर्स होते हैं, वो ऑनलाइन और मीडिएशन के ज़रिए सेटल किए जाते हैं। तो आप जब कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में आप दो पार्टीज़ के बीच में जब कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है तो उससे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में आप ये प्रोविज़न डाल सकते हैं कि हमारे बीच में अगर कोई डिस्प्यूट होगा तो हम आर्बिट्रेशन से सेटल करेंगे, हम कोर्ट में नहीं जाएंगे। तो ये ऑप्शन होता है पार्टीज़ के पास में। अब अगर हम बात करें ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन की, तो सिविल कोड्स में की जहाँ तक बात है उसमें ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन को डिफ़ाइन करने के लिए 2-3 कंसिडरेशन होते हैं। पहले चीज़ तो कॉज ऑफ एक्शन कहाँ पे अराइज हुआ, किसी ने कोई अब जैसे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किसी दो पार्टीज़ की कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का उल्लंघन कहाँ पे हुआ, या इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी जनरली जहाँ पे होती है उसी कोर्ट को ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन होता है। और पिक्यूनरी ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन की भी बात होती है कि भाई इतनी राशि तक का जो मामला है वो ये कोर्ट सुनेगी, सिविल जज जूनियर डिवीज़न सुनेगा। इसके ऊपर के वैल्यूएशन का मामला है वो सिविल जज सीनियर डिवीज़न सुनेगा। या कंज्यूमर फोरम में भी हम देखते हैं कि एक ख़ास अमाउंट से ज़्यादा का है तो वो सीधे स्टेट फोरम में जा सकते हैं, डिस्ट्रिक्ट फोरम में ना जाके। तो सब्जेक्ट मैटर, पिक्यूनरी और टेरिटोरियल ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन, टेरिटरी कि कहाँ पे प्रॉपर्टी सिचुएटेड है, कहाँ पे और जनरली फिर या ये होता है कि डिफेंडेंट जो है वो कहाँ पे रहता है, वहाँ पे कहाँ पे वो काम करता है, वेयर ही रिसाइड्स और वर्क्स फॉर गेन। तो ये कंसिडरेशंस होते हैं ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन को डिसाइड करने में, टेरिटोरियल ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन, सब्जेक्ट मैटर ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन और पिक्यूनरी ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन। ये 2-3 कंसिडरेशंस होते हैं। अब ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन का जो इशू होता है वो मेनली होता है प्रिलिमिनरी इशू, कि अब कोई मैटर जब कोर्ट में जाता है तो इट इज़ expected that the party will raise the jurisdiction issue in the very beginning, कि इस कोर्ट को jurisdiction है या नहीं। तो पहले वो यही डिसाइड होता है कि कोर्ट को jurisdiction है कि नहीं इस केस को सुनने का। अब ये होता है कई बार कि कोर्ट ये कहती है कि ठीक है हम केस को सुन लेंगे, ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन वाला इशू हम बाद में देख लेंगे, और फाइनल दैट विल बी सब्जेक्ट टू द डिसीजन ऑन द ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन। कई बार ये होता है कि ऐसे केसेस आए हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट में कि केस पूरा ट्राई हो गया, पूरा केस कोर्ट ने सुन लिया और जजमेंट भी पास हो गया, और अपील में या कहीं पे उसमें ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन का इशू आया तो कोर्ट ने ये कहा कि क्योंकि ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन का इशू जो है वो इतना इम्पॉर्टेंट, जब सब्सटैंटिव तरीके से कोर्ट ने मेरिट पर केस को सुन लिया है, और एक मेरिट पर सुनने के बाद में कोर्ट ने एक जजमेंट प्रोनाउंस कर दिया, तो अगर कोर्ट को ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन नहीं भी था, थोड़ा कोई ग्रे एरिया था कि कोर्ट को ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन हो सकता है और नहीं, और हायर तो कोर्ट्स ने ये होल्ड किया कि भाई ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन नहीं है कोर्ट को, तो भी उस केस की मेरिट पे कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ेगा। कोर्ट वो केस अगर डिसाइड हो गया एक बार, क्योंकि ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन का इशू केस तो एक बेसिकली आपको मेरिट पर ही डिसाइड करना है, उसके गुण दोष के आधार पे, उसके एविडेंस जो है, जो एप्लीकेबल लॉ है, जो आर्गूमेंट्स पार्टीज़ ने पुट फॉरवर्ड किया कोर्ट के सामने, उसके बेसिस पर डिसाइड करना है। तो कई बार ज्यूरिस्डिक्शन का जो इशू है वो उतना प्रोमिनेंट नहीं माना जाता है। अब अगर हम इसको देखें तो केस का हम प्रोसीजर की बात कर रहे हैं, तो इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ सूट्स की कोई मामला कोर्ट में जाएगा, सिविल कोर्ट्स में, तो व्हाट इज़ द प्रोसीजर? First, the party who files a case is called the plaintiff, वादी जिसको कहते हैं, जो फाइल करता है, और जो उसके प्रतिवादी पार्टी होती है, जो उसका जिसके खिलाफ ये फाइल किया जाता है, उसको हम डिफेंडेंट कहते हैं, प्रतिवादी। तो केस की जो शुरुआत होती है वो प्लीडिंग से, दावा दायर करने, इसको हम प्लेंट कहते हैं, प्लेंट फाइल करने। प्लेंट में पार्टीज़ का के बारे में, किस पार्टी के खिलाफ आपने सूट फाइल किया है, करना चाह रहे हैं, क्या आपकी ग्राउंड्स हैं। जनरली प्लीडिंग में फैक्ट्स लिखे जाते हैं कि कॉज ऑफ एक्शन कहाँ से कैसे क्या अराइज हुआ, और जो आपको राइट देता है टू सीक रेमेडी अगेंस्ट द अदर पार्टी। किसी ने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का उल्लंघन किया, किसी ने किसी की प्रॉपर्टी पर कब्जा कर लिया, एडवर्स पोजीशन का कुछ मामला है, या कोई फैमिली डिस्प्यूट है, मैरिज से रिलेटेड डिस्प्यूट है, कोई एडॉप्शन का कोई मैटर। तो जो भी कॉज ऑफ एक्शन है वो आपको पूरी तरह से उसमें स्टेट करना पड़ता है पैरावाइज, और जो भी रिलीफ आपको मांगनी है, और ये प्रिंसिपल है सिविल लॉ का कि जितनी रिलीफ आप मांग सकते हैं उतनी आपको मांग लेनी चाहिए। आप ये नहीं कर सकते कि आपने 4 रिलीफ अभी मांग ली और फिर आपने सोचा कि 2 रिलीफ हम दोबारा फिर कभी मांग लेंगे, नए तरीके से सूट इनिशिएट करके, इंस्टीट्यूट करके। वो नहीं हो सकता है। आपको जितनी भी रेमेडीज़ मांगनी है कोर्ट से, वो आप एक बार में मांगें। इसके बाद में नेक्स्ट स्टेप होता है रिटन स्टेटमेंट विच द डिफेंडेंट फाइल्स। डिफेंडेंट जिसके खिलाफ आप सूट फाइल हुआ है, दैट पार्टी हैज़ द option to file a written statement, and the written statement consists of there are 2 or 3 main things. Firstly, the claims of the plaintiff are admitted or denied, and secondly the new facts are can be added. तो कुछ और चीज़ें, पहली बात तो जो प्लेंटिफ ने जो सूट फाइल किया उसको एडमिट करेंगे, कुछ फैक्ट्स को, कुछ को डिनाई करेंगे, और कुछ अपनी तरफ से भी उसमें बात रखेंगे। और कई बार ऐसा होता है कि काउंटर क्लेम की भी बात होती है कि जैसे किसी का कुछ बकाया है किसी के ऊपर, तो उसमें दूसरी पार्टी कहते हैं हमारा भी इतना बकाया है, इसके अगर ये इन केस ये कोर्ट ये डिसाइड करती है हमारे अगेंस्ट कि भाई हमारी ये देनदारी बनती है इसके खिलाफ में, तो हमारा भी उतना बकाया है, तो इसको काउंटर क्लेम कहते हैं। तो वो जब काउंटर क्लेम को सेट ऑफ करने की बात आती है, तो उसमें भी जो प्लेंटिफ है, जब आप काउंटर क्लेम करते हैं तो डिफेंडेंट का जो काउंटर क्लेम है दैट इज़ कंसिडर्ड टू बी ए फ्रेश प्लेंट on behalf of the defendant, and the plaintiff has the right to reply to that counter claim. अब इसमें एक चीज़ और भी होती है कि प्लेंट में कुछ लिखा और डिफेंडेंट ने कुछ कहा, कुछ और लिखा, तो उसके बाद में फिर रिजॉइंडर का भी मौका दिया जाता है प्लेंटिफ को कि जो एवरमेंट्स हैं डिफेंडेंट की तरफ से उसको भी वो काउंटर कर सके। तो ये भी होता है कि कई छोटे छोटे ख़ासतौर पे स्मॉल कॉज केसेस में या रेंट कंट्रोल वगैरह के केसेस में ये प्लीडिंग से प्लेंट, रिटन स्टेटमेंट, रिजॉइंडर वगैरह से, काउंटर रिजॉइंडर, इसी से केस डिसाइड हो जाता है। कोर्ट में डायरेक्ट एविडेंस लीड करने की ज़रूरत कहीं नहीं पड़ती है, कई बार एफिडेविट्स पर एविडेंस लेकर केस को डिसाइड करते हैं। ऐसा भी होता है ख़ास तौर पे जो छोटे छोटे केसेस हैं या रेंट कंट्रोल के जो केसेस हैं, उसमें सामान्य तौर पे यही प्रोसीजर फॉलो होता है। तो रिटन स्टेटमेंट प्लेंटिफ ने फाइल किया, रिटन काउंटर क्लेम वगैरह जिसके बारे में हमने बात करी, ये एक प्रोसीजर है इसको इंस्टीट्यूट करने का कि सूट को कि कोई दावा आप कैसे दायर करेंगे कोर्ट में। अब हेयरिंग के दौरान इसमें कई चीज़ें होती हैं। जब प्लीडिंग्स फाइल हो जाती है तो पार्टीज़ को एक मौका हाँ पार्टीज़ को मौका दिया जाता है। पहले इश्यूज़ फ्रेम होते हैं कि किन इश्यूज़ पे एविडेंस लीड की जाएगी, फिर एविडेंस लीड करने के लिए डॉक्यूमेंट इंस्पेक्ट करने वगैरह के लिए पार्टीज़ को मौका दिया जाता है, और फिर उसके बाद में कोर्ट उसके बेसिस पे जजमेंट पास करता है। जजमेंट के बेसिस पर डिक्री एक ऑर्डर होता है जो जजमेंट तो एक होता है कि इसमें क्या रीज़न है, क्या क्या ग्राउंड्स हैं उस ऑर्डर को पास करने की, स्टेटमेंट ऑफ द ग्राउंड्स ऑन विच द डिक्री इज़ पास्ड। और डिक्री एक होता है जिसको आप एग्जीक्यूट कर सकते हैं। अब डिक्री में इसमें एग्जीक्यूशन की भी जब बात होती है तो अगर दूसरी पार्टी ऑर्डर को नहीं मानती है, जजमेंट को, तो एग्जीक्यूशन की प्रोसीडिंग्स आप शुरू कर सकते हैं। इसमें अपील का भी प्रोविज़न है। अगर आप सेटिस्फाइड नहीं हैं तो आप अपील में जा सकते हैं। रिविजन और रेफरेंस की भी बात होती है कि जहाँ अपीलेबल ऑर्डर्स नहीं होते उसमें आप रिवीजन में जा सकते हैं। रेफरेंस में कोई ऐसा मैटर है जिसमें आपको लगता है कि कोई लीगल पॉइंट है जिसको हायर कोर्ट को डिसाइड करना है, तो हायर कोर्ट्स को में रेफ़र किया जा सकता है। तो ये सारा जो प्रक्रिया है ये सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड के में हम देखते हैं। तो आज हमने बात करी सिविल प्रोसीजर के बारे में, तो और इसमें जो प्रोविज़न है सिविल प्रोसीजर में मेनली वो कोई भी सिविल नेचर का डिस्प्यूट है जो कि आप इनिशिएट कर सकते हैं किसी कोर्ट में, तो उसमें क्या प्रोसीजर फॉलो होगा उसके बारे में आज हमने बात करी। और इसी के साथ हम अपना वाइंड अप करते हैं। हमें उम्मीद है कि आपको पसंद आया होगा हमारा आज का प्रोग्राम। थैंक यू वेरी मच।